So here we are. Hi, folks. It's Elaine Lindsay of Business Banter Plus TV, and I'm here with the incredible, my wonder from down under, Keith Keller. Hi. I'm
Hey,
so
how you
glad
doing?
to
I love
have
that
you.
title. The Wonder from Down Under, the secret weapon,
My
all the way
secret
down here in
weapon,
Melbourne,
the
Australia.
Twitter king, the global Twitter marketing just magic man, I swear. I'm so excited to be back. We had a little summer hiatus, and we're back now with Keith in this special time because, as I said, he's from Australia and being kind enough to meet us early in the morning. So without further ado, there's a lot I could tell you, but I think Keith can tell you better. So let's start off with, why don't you give us just a little bit about you?
Okay. Well, I live in Melbourne, Australia. I live an hour from the city in a really lovely part of Melbourne called the Mornington Peninsula. I'm not as that far down there, but I live 10 minutes walk to the beach.
Oh.
I never go to the city. Never go to the city. And, my whole story, my whole life, my whole reason for being, and the reason I love the online world is that I had jobs in call centres and all these crappy jobs that we've all hated, and I've suited up and I've spent an hour on a train each way on a cold summer winter's day. And I thought, I don't want to do that anymore. And, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have thought this, and it took me 20 years to get my courage up. But in 2006, I just hit the wall. I just had such a severe series of really major trauma, if you like, with working 9 to 5, that I just quit. It was my 40th birthday, actually, and I thought, I've had enough. I've had enough of this 9 to 5 and crappy jobs to pay the mortgage in a tin can an hour each way. No one's enjoying themselves. No one's laughing. And I thought, there's got to be a better life than this. Sure, I was paying off a house, and sure, I had a job, but I hated it. So in 2006, I just quit the corporate world, and I said, look, there's got to be a better life than this. I have no idea what that is yet, but I'm just going to trust. Bit of a jump off the cliff moment. I mean, I had nowhere to go, but I just knew that I was miserable. Yeah. So I went back to uni. I went to uni. I became a career counsellor because someone actually said to me, Keith, if you've had all these crappy jobs, I reckon you'd be a fantastic career counsellor. I just reckon you'd really get it. I really reckon you'd have empathy for people.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'll have a go. So I went back to uni. I did a postgraduate degree in career studies, and I worked at a university here for a year. And I helped a lot of really cool people find jobs they love. It was very satisfying. And then I started my own business. Me! I mean, I was working in the city for 20 years. I would never have thought that I would start my own business. But and the thing that I really love with my friend Anne-Marie Cross, you know very well,
Yes.
we had this chat and we said, you know what everyone's doing when they start a business? They get business cards, they put flyers in the letterbox, they go to networking events, and they advertise in the local paper. Fine, we did all of that. But we thought we'd try something else. So we did a radio show, Career Success Radio.
Wow.
And we thought, between Amber and I, the collective wisdom that we have in the career space, we could actually create a really valuable idea. So once a week at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, we just did this radio show on Blog Talk Radio, really cool idea, like a Google Hangout without pictures. Yeah. No video back then. And we were listened to in 126 countries. 126 countries were emailing me going, Keith, it's such and such from Lima, Peru, and my family never talks like this. You have that funny accent and you say positive stuff, and you've given me hope. I hate my job, and now I'm going to start trying some of your ideas.
Wow.
So we ran that for 2 years, and the show was listened to in 126 countries. We did 108 podcasts.
Wow.
And it was time to stop. We had a bit of fun with that, and then we thought, well, okay, let's move on. Anne-Marie went into a different space. She's very powerful in that space, and hopefully she can come on one of these eventually.
Oh, yes.
And I decided to focus more on social media because what I noticed, and this is actually what I love about being a business owner, we had a product we were proud of that not many people knew about in the beginning. So our question was, how do I get the word out? How do I tell people? What's the quickest way to let as many people we know? So I tried Facebook, I tried LinkedIn, Google Plus wasn't invented then, I tried Twitter, and Twitter just was the rocket.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you try things and when they work, you do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when they don't work, you try something else. LinkedIn didn't work for me at all. I still hardly ever use it. Facebook was a complete disaster for me, and it still is. But I still use it to connect with my friends on a personal level. But for business, I personally have had no success with Facebook, personally. If the reverse was the case...
Good point. Yeah, that's a really good point, Keith, because a lot of times people will say, oh, yeah, well, you know, I got into social media and somebody said, well, do Facebook. But it's not good for you to be in an area where your target market isn't. And you do, like you have a true entrepreneurial spirit because you did what you tried all the different pieces and then you found one that seemed to work, so you went back and did it again and did it again until you are where you are now.
And you know, the thing that I find, I'm very proud of this. I was saying to you yesterday that I reckon some of my stuff's going to end up in a time capsule because I seem to have worked out my niche in the world. My niche in the world is to get really, 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 really good at something and teach others.
Yeah.
That's so, you know, I started off back in July 2010. I started off doing 90-minute coaching sessions because people were asking me, well, Keith, this Twitter thing, I just don't get it. Can we have a chat about that? Yeah, no worries. I'll ring you on Skype. And I was doing 2 and 3 Skype calls a day, 90 minutes, and they're exhausting. I love them, but they're exhausting. And someone said to me, really clever person, January 2013, why don't I just ring you one day and we'll record one of these 90-minute sessions and we'll put a series of videos out.
Wow.
Deb Carr from, you know, Eagle Waves Radio, very good friend. So instead of charging $197 for 90 minutes and doing it 3 times a day and, you know, killing my voice and having to turn up on Skype and being locked to the computer, we recorded a series of videos in January 2013 and put them on the internet, and they're available for sale for $97. Perfect. And that frees me up to go for a walk on the bike ride or walk my dog and go for, because I love hanging out at that real cool cafe near the beach. And it frees up my lifestyle to create more products, to talk to more people, to go to networking events. And I wasn't locked to the computer doing coaching, which I do love, but it's very linear. Yeah. You got to do it. You got to be there. It's very live. So I started in January with this one product, this 30 minutes, 3 times, not 90 minutes. And then someone said, it just morphed. Someone said, why don't you do 6 15-minute ones? Because I think 30 minutes is a bit long. It's hard for me to concentrate for 30 minutes. Can you turn 6 or 3 30-minute videos into 6 15-minute interviews? Oh, okay. No worries. Same material, just different format, slightly different. And because I love creating stuff, you know, each particular product, and there's about 10 of them now, each particular product has a theme song and a voiceover, and it's just like you're interviewing me. This has got a slightly different flavour than when Deb interviewed me.
Right.
Because Deb's an Aussie, she's come from the fashion world, and you're a Canuck, and you've got, you know, a different history, yeah?
For people who didn't get that, he said, I'm a Canuck, which is Canada's way of sort of handling ourselves. In fact, okay, my heart and the rest of me is still a Brit, Keith. I will always be a Brit.
Okay. But the other piece of the pie, so what's happened there is I started off in the coaching world, and this is actually a very, very good story for entrepreneurs because most of us start off there. We start off charging for our time. Okay, you ring me, you pay me, good. That's how I pay my mortgage. Great, it's a great model. But it's exhausting and it's very finite. How many coaching calls can you do a day? 8 maximum.
Well,
6 probably after 4 your voice is gone and you're stuck.
Because there's only one of you, you're limited in what you can do one-to-one.
Yeah. And this is actually what Andrew and Heather teach, this idea of autopilot your business. I'm sort of splitting myself up. Yeah. So I've got a 3-part video series with Deb Carr, which was called Twitter for Speakers. Then I've just released a product in London called Twitter for Performers, which is 6 audios, 6 MP3s, just in case you can't be bothered watching videos and you want to listen to me on your MP3 player. I've got a version for actors or performers, for circus artists and singers and things, and that's £10 just because I wanted to make it super cheap for creatives, because I'm a creative. I know what it's like to be in a band and have no money. I lived that life for a long time. So, but this is the thing I love about it, is I live in Melbourne, Australia, and this is very much my story. I live in Melbourne, Australia, 10 minutes from the beach. I never go to the city. All my friends, most of my very, very, very good friends, don't live in my town.
Yeah.
And that's the new paradigm. You live in Kingston, Ontario. Yeah? Ottawa. That's right.
No, I'm Ottawa.
You're Ottawa. My very good friend Melissa Martin, Raving Redhead, lives in Kingston, Ontario.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I'm very proud of this. This is my life in a nutshell. Just last night, from 4 until 7 p.m., I spent 3 hours on a Skype call to the UAE, and we recorded 12 podcasts, which will turn into an ebook.
Yeah.
And will turn up on the internet somewhere about 6 or 8 weeks from now. And that's what I do. I've now got a 12-part podcast series with a 100-page ebook coming. How cool is that?
Isn't that amazing? See, for me,
and that's what I spend my time doing.
Yeah. And for me, what you show people is that if you have ideas, don't just sit on them. Okay, Keith, I will tell you all, folks, Keith shoots out ideas 1,000,000 times a day. Trust me, all of us who adore him have a gazillion emails. Oh my God, I just thought of this. And I have to tell you, they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. You've completely changed how I write my tweets, because it's just such a cooler way to do it. We talked about the character thing earlier today, but I have to say, I think it's really fascinating to see you and understand like the true entrepreneurial mind. You really did something that I guarantee if you went through a corporate office today, 80% of the people in cubicles would say, God, I wish I had his guts. I would do that because I don't want to be here. The amount of courage it takes to walk out that door and leave all that safety behind, to me, that's just phenomenal. It's really, like, kudos to you. Definitely pat yourself on the back.
Well, look, I really appreciate you saying that, because it was a bit hard to do, and it happened to coincide with my 40th birthday. It took me 20 years to summon up the courage. And a slight backstory is in the 80s and 90s when I was doing my research, there was a really major shift in a movement called downshifting. So a whole movement around people saying, you know what, I don't want to go to work in a cubicle and sell mobile phones to people that I don't even like, that don't like me, just because I've got the mortgage payments due and a baby on the way. I mean, those things are pressure. Those things are real pressure. When you've got a baby on the way and a mortgage payment due, that's money that has to be paid whether you're working or not. They don't care whether you like your job or whether you've got money in the bank. The money is due, and you just have to pay it, or they take the house off you.
Absolutely.
But I just had the courage, and my wife was very supportive here. I just said, look, there has got to be a better way to pay my mortgage than to come to this place, because I hate it. I'm dying inside. I'm killing myself. Black Sabbath had a song, I think it was 1974, Killing Myself to Live.
Yeah.
The quintessential metal song. And basically what that means is I'm going to work, and sure, I'm making money, but the job I'm doing is killing me.
Sucking you.
It's killing me. It's eating me up inside. And I think that is the actual essence of the entrepreneurial journey. I think that's the essence of why entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. And my favourite quote of recent times is from Heather Porter, who says, entrepreneurs are prepared to work 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm happy to work 10 hours a day on my business, but I can't stand sitting in a cubicle selling mobile phones for someone else.
No, and I totally get that. Totally get it. I don't think I'm the corporate idea of someone that could just sit in an office, because I like the interaction. I love to do this, but I also love to network in person. You know,
Mm.
I'm motivated by people. That's my background. So I totally understand where you're coming from. What I think is really interesting and a real bonus, I think, for you is the fact that you and your wife managed to, you know, agree on this change, because I don't
Mm.
doubt that
Mm.
she saw that you were dying inside. I mean, there's nothing worse than watching someone you care for not being happy.
Mm.
So, you know,
You know, like
hats
I've
off.
got, I mean, everything revolves around the fact that, you know, it took us time to do it. And look, there's a really great book that explains this. It's called, two books I read. One, Finding Work with Meaning, because remember I was a career counsellor, so I was actually suggesting this to people. Finding Work with Meaning, Mark Albion.
With meaning.
And
Okay.
his whole premise is, instead of being a jack of all trades, pick one thing that you're naturally already good at and become world famous.
Yeah.
Yeah? Rather than trying to do everything and please everyone and being a bit of a nothing, living your life in black and white but playing safe, which is what about 99% of the population do, you know, which is fine because, as I said, the mortgage is due and there's a baby on the way. But what he recommends is find something that you're really already good at, but just get bloody good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But the other book that really changed my whole life was Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow. Marsha Sinitar. Yeah, that completely changed my life because she says, look, this is not magic and fairies. Do the work. Do some hard yards. Do the research. So it took me a couple of years, actually on my 35th birthday, which is actually 13 years ago. I'm 48 now. It's hard to imagine it being that long ago. It was the worst day of my life. And it took me 5 years to do this. I went to job. It was my birthday. You know, it was my birthday. It was my 35th birthday, and I thought, you know, that's my birthday today, and I've got to go to work. Well, okay. But I just had the worst day of my life. The manager yelled at me in front of 40 clients on the floor, embarrassed me in front of a whole team of people, made me feel like an idiot. And I'm thinking, you know, the only reason I'm here, mate, is because I need the money.
Yeah.
If I didn't need the money, I would tell you some really major shit. But I can't tell you that because I've got to suck it up. I've got a house,
Yeah.
you know, that I just bought. And I thought that lived with me. It sucked me dry inside for about 5 years until I worked out a way that I could say, you know what, I'm not taking that shit anymore. Okay, my house is due. We don't have kids, so there's no babies on the way, but the house is still due, and the house payments are still due. But I've got stuff. I've got skills. I've got stuff inside me that's valuable to the world. And that's how I want to make my money now. I don't want to make my money going to a job where the manager shouts at me in front of 50 people in the storeroom. Yeah, I mean, I felt dead inside. I felt like a nothing. And I thought, I was so angry.
Yeah, yeah. I can understand that, and I think it's really, but you know, I understand how, first of all, incredibly brave, but incredibly terrifying that had to be. Just tuck it all. But the fact is, when you are that sure of your convictions, there's a little voice that keeps you going, no matter what.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think people, they don't allow themselves to hear the good little voice. They only hear the negative stuff, which is unfortunate, because I think if we let ourselves, more people would be like you and just go for it. Like, just jump off that cliff.
It's not magic and fairies. You just can't jump off the cliff without a plan. You know, it does take some time. So I've got a beautiful wife. My wife, Carol, is my best friend. And she's so supportive, and I couldn't have done this without her. But we did it over time. We bought our house in 2001. I didn't leave my job until 2006. So I spent 5 years planning this. But what I can tell, and this is what happens because I'm now 48, as I said, I've been building to this point. I just didn't suddenly wake up one day and make an e-product. I've been building to this point. I did a uni degree. I worked as a career counsellor. I found Twitter. I discovered it. I got deep into it. Yeah. I wrote a little book. Someone liked it. I did another one. You know, I found Andrew and Heather and you and Laura. We're creating something. It builds over time, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like the linear process. I very much like this. If you've ever seen my LinkedIn profile, I've done this very deliberately. I've actually charted out, I started off with Career Journeys Australia, then I had the radio show. Then I did my first product. Then I did another one. Now we've got a product, which, I'm so excited about. This will be the best thing I've ever done. But it all comes from conviction, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a good support network and some courage and hard work. And it is true, I work 10 hours a day. I work much, much harder now than I ever did in the call centre. Ever. Twice, 3 times as hard.
But go ahead and tell us what the difference is.
Well, the difference is I wake up in the morning, I'm going on a Google Hangout with my favourite Canuck. I'll go for a walk in the afternoon, I come home, I'm on Skype to the UAE. Yeah. I wake up in the morning and I've just been followed by a really gorgeous singer in Nashville and we're having a chat.
All right. Now,
So I'm being honoured. I'm being honoured for the things that I like doing. I'm helping the world, but I'm also successful in a multitude of ways. I've got good friends who respect my opinion. I help them, they help me. We're incredibly useful to the world and each other, aren't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into sort of my next little area, because I think it's really exciting. You talk to a group of us. We're in a mastermind group with Heather Porter and Andrew McCauley and Laura Wage. And we talk, we mastermind, we meet pretty much every week. And you mentioned about being in a band. And we talked about that. And really, your, I guess, early Twitter, your focus became like musicians and celebrities. And how did that start?
Well, the reason why Twitter fascinated me is that, I jokingly said that Biz Stone, who was the original founder, he's gone now, but the original founder of Twitter, I used to say that Biz Stone was my brother in a previous life. Because he created Twitter for me. I mean, the functionality around Twitter, it perfectly suits my personality.
Yeah.
So bands and singers and speakers and writers, they've all got something that they're very proud of. Guess what? I've just released my 3rd album and I think this song's a winner. We've just done a video and it's really funky. We were on the beach in Malibu and it cost us a couple of grand, but look at this. We're doing this video and it's funky and the song's great. I think it could be a hit. That's what musos think when they write their own songs, because you've written the song. You can't help but think it's going to be it. And I help people do that. I help people say, okay, well, you've got a song that you've just recorded and spent 3 grand on a video, but no one's seen the video. Let's see if we can push it. We'll push it on Twitter and Google Plus and YouTube, and let's see if we can make it go viral.
So who was the first? The first musician?
First musician? That I ever helped?
Yeah.
Or that ever followed me back?
Well, either. Or how about both?
Yeah. So I tell you, my one red letter moment was when Britney Spears followed me back.
Yeah. Yeah.
34 million followers. I'm thinking, what a cool idea. I found that out from a site called Social Bro, who lists all your followers, because I get quite a lot of followers now, and it's easy to miss them.
Yes.
So Social Bro is a really cool site that tells you that. But look, I think what's starting to happen now in terms of the excitement is that about a year or 2 ago, a lot of my heroes started following me. So I was at a wedding, for instance, in Cairns, which is in far north Queensland, and Foreigner, who are now sort of remaking themselves, followed me.
Love them.
Foreigner were amazing, man. When I was playing music, because I was a muso, a very bad one. When I was playing music, I was following bands like Foreigner and a really cool band called Vixen, which is sort of like a female version of Bon Jovi, just the coolest band ever. And that, the bass player from Vixen, Cher Ross, who's now a good friend of mine, followed me back. And so suddenly I'm thinking, here's an amazing thing. Some of my heroes from when I was a young kid playing keyboards in a band, hoping to make it, are now reforming. Yeah. And they know everything there is to know about writing songs and making videos. But guess what? They don't know anything about Twitter. And then they go, so we're helping each other. I don't know anything about playing bass guitar in a heavy rock band with gorgeous girls. I've never done that. But I can tell you how to use Twitter. So we've got this mutual respect for each other. I respect Cher enormously because she's done what I aspired to do, and she's doing it again. But she doesn't know much about Twitter, and so I'm helping her with that. So I think it's a matter of finding your skill level and being humble enough to say, look, you're awesome at what you do. I pay kudos to you for that, and I'm happy to help you with what I know. And maybe we can work together and make a product, or I can help you get your next gig out, or you've written a book so I can help you promote that. So there's a lot of them. I mean, there's quite a lot of them now, my heroes that have followed me back, and I love that because I feel that I'm useful to them. As an 18-year-old playing keyboards, I was a hopeless muso and just a hanger-on. But as a Twitter dude, I know something they don't know, and I'm happy to share. And that's where I think I sit in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice position to be in. Yeah?
I think it's an amazing position to be in. And that's actually why I wanted to have you on the show, because your story is unique, but it's a story, it's a good story, and it's a story that people could take on in their own niche. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like other people can be fearless. Let your ideas flow. Go ahead. And, you know, celebrities and musicians and everybody else puts their pants on one leg at a time. I love the fact that there was no barrier for you. It didn't matter.
Barrier, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter who they were. You thought you could help, and that's why you reached out.
Yeah, and they saw that.
Yeah,
because they're awesome at what they do, and in what they do I have no way of being of any use. But there's a skill that I have, and I want to share a really amazing quote. This quote has absolutely changed my whole life. Brian Tracy said, probably a number of years ago now, if you don't want to be in the top 10% of your field, you're in the wrong field.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to get good, you're in the wrong job. If you wake up one day and you just can't be bothered learning it, then you're in the wrong job.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and if you've got the mortgage payments and the baby due, well, I understand that. But there's another part of me that says, look, just jump out of bed and say, well, what do I want to get good at? What do I dig? What turns me on? What gets me out of bed? What makes me want to run around the block and shout, yes, 100,000 followers by Christmas, or whatever? You know, you set this ridiculously bold goal. And Brian Tracy said, why don't you just spend some time thinking about what you want to get good at?
Yeah.
And, you know, it changed my whole life. And so I thought, okay, what do I want to be in the top 10% in the world at? What do I want to do? And I had this was about July 2010, which is when my whole business model changed. And I said, you know what, at the moment, and we've all done this, at that moment, I'm trying to learn Facebook, and I'm trying to get my head around Google Plus, and I'm trying to get, you know, YouTube working, and I'm trying to do podcasting, and I'm trying to get better at LinkedIn, and there's this new one called Pinterest, and I keep hearing about Instagram, and I'm thinking, ah! So in July 2010, I said, enough. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the best in the world at Twitter. That's it. I'm just going to get really, 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 really good at Twitter. And I never use Instagram, never. Hardly ever make videos for YouTube.
Yes.
But I pulled Twitter apart. I pulled it apart. Every day I'm trying something new inside of Twitter. Yeah? And I can tell you that Kred, Kred.com, they've now listed me in the top 1% of people on Twitter. Yeah. So you start with a goal, top 10% in the world. Seems okay, that seems doable. You push hard. You get focus. And because you've got focus, you've got energy. Because you've got energy, you're enjoying your life. You've got a direction. Yeah? The reverse of this is, oh, well, you know, I've got to go to work because it's Monday. Yeah. And I have to go because I need the money. And then suddenly Monday turns into Tuesday, and Tuesday becomes Wednesday, and then suddenly it's Friday, and you think, well, there's another day gone, and I've got 2 weeks or 2 days off to sort of recover. Yeah. Maybe I'll go and get drunk because at least I'll forget. You know, I've done that. got drunk on a Friday night because I hated my job so much I couldn't stand going home. I couldn't stand it. I just couldn't. I was so ashamed. I had this shit job and I was so bad at it. I got retrenched 3 times in a row from various jobs because I just didn't want to go. Yeah? And we've all had these jobs where you just don't want to go. Yeah. And if you find a way on your weekends to make up for it, get drunk, buy things, go on overseas holidays, buy expensive dinners out, and buy fancy clothes. It doesn't make up for the fact that you're miserable, does it?
Not at all. Not at all.
And I can tell you, I haven't bought fancy clothes for a very long time or gone to a fancy restaurant, but I'm the happiest I've ever been. I am myself. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the difference. You ask the difference between working as an entrepreneur and working for someone else. I am myself. Well, I wake up in the morning and I am myself. Yeah. Well, yeah. This is me. This is the real me. Yeah.
That's why you connect the real me. Well, because there's no facade. You are who you are, and you love what you do, which is obvious, and that makes it easy for people to learn to know, like, and trust you, which is absolutely the ultimate key in business. So you have that, know, like, trust factor up the yin yang, which allows celebrities and people like Britney Spears to follow you. So, with that in mind, when you were a young lad, what did you think you were going to do? Did you have a single goal, or?
Yeah, single goal. So when I was 16, I got a picture of this. This is my Throwback Thursday I sometimes use. I've got a picture of me on the radio when I was 16, March 1982.
Wow.
So a friend of mine used to have a radio show, and I reckon I could do that. So every Wednesday after school for about 2 years, I did this radio show from 4 till 6, and I just played songs, and I just talked a bit, because I was only young and I didn't know what to say, and I just had to sort of steal my friends' records and borrow them things from the library, and I just didn't have much to say, but I knew there was something in that. So when I was 16, I was living in Albury-Wodonga, which is a town on the border of Victoria and New South Wales. It's a sort of small country town, maybe 50,000 people total, because it's a combined city, Albury-Wodonga, or 2 cities on either side of the border.
Okay.
Maybe it's 100,000 total. And a small country town, and lots happens there, no work and all that sort of stuff. And so I thought, I'm going to be a radio announcer. I reckon I can do that. I think that suits me. So I came to Melbourne. I actually went to radio announcing school.
Oh, wow.
No one knows this. This is a complete new story. And people said, Keith, you don't have the voice. Back then, 1984, that's still very biased against the voice. Now, look, everyone's a radio announcer. You can get a radio announcer pretty easily. I'm guessing it's not as easy as they thought, but it was very hard back then. Yeah. And in 1984, they said, you just don't have the right voice. It's too nasally. It's too up. It's too sort of, it needs to be more resonant.
You needed that deeper voice, right?
I needed the voice, I needed the Casey Kasem type,
Yeah.
And so I went to elocution lessons, and I tried it for about 2 years, and you just can't change what you got.
No.
They said, look, I tell you what you could do. If we just inserted this hole in your nose, I reckon we could sort of create this little muffler effect. And I reckon your voice would drop an octave. It costs you about 10 grand and it'd bloody hurt, but I reckon it'd work.
Ooh.
And I thought, do I really want to put a hole in my nose and speak like a muffler? Just thought I could get a job in radio. This is who I am. Sometimes you've got to stand in the line and say, this is it. This is what you get. So I did try my guts out for about 2 years to be a radio announcer. And the reason why I tell that story is when I discovered podcasting with, say, Career Success Radio with Anne-Marie Cross, it felt like I'd come home.
Right.
It felt like I'd been given permission. And that's why I loved Career Success Radio and why I put so much effort into it.
Yeah.
So instead of going to a studio in the city and only being heard by the people who lived in that town, podcasting allows you to record something and throw it out to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people like Michael Stelzner and probably even Andrew and Heather, they're getting hundreds of thousands of downloads every week. We weren't, because we were just starting. But the point is that, from a very early age, I always wanted to be in that sort of media idea. So it was radio. I was in a band. I played bass guitar for a number of years. I had very, very long hair, longer hair than my wife when we met. And then I switched to keyboards. I learnt classical piano, and I learnt Mozart and Beethoven. I thought I'd get serious. So I could then play classical piano, and I wrote all these really cool melodies, and then I joined a band, and we put music over the lyrics, and then we write our own songs. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Hard to make a living that way, but very exciting time. So all of that history, which really started around about 1982, and I've actually got a video from 1992 with me playing in a band with really long hair. That's a
wow.
I even did the backup vocals. It was one of those sort of 80s rock bands like Mr. Big or Nelson or Bon Jovi, the big power choruses where there's this guitar at the front, and then you're just singing this big power chorus, and everyone joins in, and everyone's singing your songs in the mouth. So we had this big power chorus. I mean, of course, we were the only people singing it. No one had heard of us. But that's my history. Yeah. So when people come to me with that energy, I know it. I know that energy. When someone comes to me and says, you know what, I've just written a book and I'm so excited, I know how that feels. You've written a book. You're so proud, aren't you? Yeah. Let me help. All right. What do we do? Well, let's get started. So I know where they're coming from. I know where their mojo is, because it's theirs. You own it. Yeah. You're not selling someone else's product. You're not selling Amway or Avon, which are great products, but they're not my product.
You didn't give birth to them.
I didn't give birth to them.
Yeah.
I made them. I wrote a song. It's the best thing I've ever heard. Well, it was for about 15 minutes. Yeah. Because I wrote it. You can't stop singing your own stuff. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's a funny story, but it's been a long time developing, and actually, if anything from this call, I think that's probably a good story to tell. That it's not instant. It doesn't have to be straight away.
Well, no, and that's a really excellent point. And sometimes people don't realize that what they went through in their youth, or what they tried and maybe failed at in their youth, it just wasn't the right time. So when you come back to it, because you've come full circle, you've now done the podcast, you're now doing video, you're doing all of these things, so you've really come full circle. You've gone so far ahead of being on the radio. And I don't mean to denigrate radio at all. My son's a morning man, so that would not be a good thing to do. But in that same vein, you see, I'm 12 years older than you, or almost 12 years older than you. And as a woman in the 70s, being a broadcaster, being an interviewer like this, was not within the ken of my family.
Yeah.
My parents only knew that, you could be a teacher, you could be an airline stewardess, or you could be a nurse, none of which interested me. So it's really cool to watch others and hear of other stories who wanted to do things like broadcasting and maybe tried it. And it's not just you. There's other people that have come back and now in the digital space are being able to live out the dreams they thought maybe they wouldn't get to do.
And I love what you've said there, because when I was 16, it was all about ego.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be on the radio because I wanted to be famous. I had nothing to say. I had nothing to stand for anything. I had nothing to offer.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have anything to any other 16-year-old kid working a second job after high school. But now, when I do podcasting, like this Google Hangout is my story.
Yes.
And we know each other because we are part of a master plan called the Online Master Plan Series, and we each have a piece of the pie. So when I get interviewed or I do podcasts myself, the podcasts have a message. Use Twitter to promote yourself. It's not, hello, here I am, I'm just going to rant for a while.
Yeah.
No, as I said last night, I'm so proud of this. I was 3 hours on Skype with a friend in the UAE. We now are going to record 12 podcasts, the A to Z of how to use Twitter to market yourself. Now, I'm so proud of that, because if you've never done Twitter before, you could pick this podcast up and just listen to it on your bike ride or walking the dog or while you're cooking your meal, and you're getting some stuff. You're learning stuff. And I'm part of that. How cool is that?
I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. And it's wonderful it's really wonderful to see, and I know people are going to get it when they watch this, that you have such a pure joy in what you're doing. And
yeah, it is.
That's really something special. And the money will follow. Okay, when you do something that makes you deeply happy, that allows you to wake up every day and be filled with joy because you get to do the work you love, the rest of it will come. I absolutely believe that.
And look, I've got to tell you, these Google Hangouts have been the things that have scared the shit out of me for ages. Tell you what, I'm so excited that we're doing this, because like I've spent the last hour getting the light right. You can probably see that I've got the light shining over there, and I've been practicing all my Elaine goodies. You've been coaching me on how to use Google Plus and Google Hangouts, and I for a very, very long time, maybe even up until today, have been very much against video. And I think this is the first video I've ever done when I've really felt like I really nailed it.
I'm glad.
The other ones are sort of me hiding away in the back room, and the lighting's terrible, and I look crap, and I look like I've just woken up, which is actually the truth. The thing that I love about being an entrepreneur, I don't need to hide anymore. I work from home.
Yeah.
And I'm bloody happy. I'm really happy.
Yeah, and there's nothing to hide about it, honestly, Keith. I think it's incredible, and I know over the past few months, me leading up to getting you to come on the show, I told you the story of how long it took me to actually get on video. There were, prior to 2011, there were no pictures of me. There was probably a dozen pictures, and they were in a wedding album. I wouldn't allow people to take pictures. And when I decided that, Google Plus was this new thing, and the Hangouts, I thought it was just brilliant because I had so many ideas of what the Hangouts could do for people. My husband said, well, at some point, you can't stand with a paper bag over your head. You're going to have to be on video. So I totally understand that it's a terrifying thing. And I will be honest with you and tell you I'm not really good at watching the shows after, because I'm way too critical of me. But for anybody who wants to give it a try, to do some kind of show or even a podcast, if you're still a little too shy to do video, then start as Keith did in podcasts. If you've got a message to get out there, and that's the biggest point you made. When you're 16, it's about being famous. When you're a bit older, it's more about sharing the message. And when you're a real person like you are, it's about offering your gifts for the aid of other people. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it was all ego when I was younger, but I do have a message, and I'm proud. And I want to just reiterate what you've just said there. Like, I personally, up until today, have never resonated with video. I can see now why, that I've got the lighting right and I'm speaking okay today. I can see why it works. But up until now, I've never been into it. And, for me, podcasting is the coolest thing, because, first of all, you don't have to worry about what you look like. And second of all, some people like to listen while they're doing things. I listen to Andrew and Heather's podcast while I'm walking around the block, while I'm doing my workout, because it fits into my life, yeah? So podcasting might work for a section of the community that like to listen to stuff, and it might work for a section of the community that don't want to put their head on the camera.
Well, because there's different ways that we learn. There's different ways that we take in information. Some people are kinesthetic. They want to touch, they want to feel, they need a book in hand to be able to really, chew over what they want to learn.
Yeah.
some people are auditory, and so podcasts are exactly what they want. And those that are visual, like me, I really like a full experience. I have to say that the podcasts with Andrew and Heather, and also with John Lee Dumas, his podcast, and Chris Brogan, who I absolutely adore, I use those podcasts often in my car when I'm traveling or I'm stuck in traffic, or going to the gym, whatever I'm doing. It gives me a chance to sort of hear what's going. I will admit that I tend to go back, if there's video available, I tend to go back and watch the video.
And that's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, for me it's more, I get more, I think, out of the visual, and I just understand that's my way of learning.
Well, the thing I wanted to point out is that there's really two ways to think of this. One is, what does the consumer want? And I know the stats. 40% of people love video. 40% of people love to read. Only 20% love to listen. So that's interesting. From the consumer point of view, that's a very interesting stat. Only 20% of people prefer to listen to podcasts. I'm one of them.
Wow.
40% of people still love to read. But the other side of the coin to think of is, well, what do you like doing? I can tell you for sure, I'm never, ever going to write blog posts. I'm never going to do it. So if my only mechanism for me was to write blog posts to get my message out, then I would be silent. And that means, that, without being facetious, that all my messages get lost. I just don't get them out. No one gets to hear me. So if you prefer to write, then write, because 40% of people love to read. Beautiful. That's a perfect synergy. But if you hate writing, like I hate writing, then find someone like Nicola who's going to transcribe your podcast and turn it into a book, which is just the coolest thing. She's my best friend in the whole world, the second coolest person in the world after you. But you might find that podcasting works for you. It just works for your energy. Like when I'm doing a podcast, I get very energized and I share information and I think of things spontaneously and I make things up. Because I'm in the moment and I'm in the flow.
And you're not having to worry about the extraneous things that are not important to you, which is the visual.
That's right. That's right. So I'm not worried about the visual, which up until today has always worried me, and I'm not worried about putting it in words. Oh, did I spell that right? Oh, my grammar's so terrible. Is that the right phraseology? Is the full stop in the right place, or should it be one or two apostrophes? Or what's that mean? You get all bound up in, is it spelt right? Is the paragraphing right? Oh, that's not right. Or the words don't make sense. And so because of that, you stop yourself. You get bound up and you stop your flow. Like when I just talk, I just talk. Sometimes I make mistakes and you make little errors. You can edit them out. But the overall essence of what you're saying is really powerful. So you've got two ways to think of it. What does the consumer want? 40, 40, 20. And what do you prefer? There's no point writing if you hate writing. You just won't do it.
No.
Just no point forcing yourself. Just do it. And this is exactly what Mark Albion says in that book, Finding Work with Meaning. Find something that you really dig. I dig podcasts and I dig it. I could do it every day forever. And subsequently on my SoundCloud account, I've got 3-4 hours of material there.
And you want to know something? This is a really, really good point for people in general, because I tell clients who say just what you just said, I'm not good at writing, I'm never going to write a blog, it's just not my thing. Guess what? Those podcasts are blog posts. They're just audio blog posts.
That's right.
There's no reason that somebody can't speak a blog rather than write a blog.
That's right.
Business Banter Plus TV, our posts on the site, on the website, they're technically, this is our blog. Our blog is in a video format.
A blog. You've got a vlog. Yeah. So I've heard people say that a video blog is a vlog. I've even heard that people say that a photo blog is a flog.
I hadn't heard that one. But
I'll flog you.
That's a really good point. I won't be doing the flogs.
That changes the whole image, doesn't it? So because I hang out with entrepreneurs. I hang out with people that have done the jump. I also hang out with people that want to do the jump, and I hang out with people that will never do the jump. But the point is, my most exciting friends are the ones that have done the jump, and they're going, where to now, Keith? What do we do now? We can do anything. What do we do now? We want to create a video series on Google Plus.
Yeah.
Want to create another podcast? Want to do a book?
The sky's the limit.
Want to do a world tour? Want to go over and see Andrew and Laura and do an American tour? Wouldn't that be cool? Let's do a Canadian tour. Let's go to Montreal. Because the entrepreneurial mind is going this fast, and anything is possible. There's no way in the world you can tell me that if I decided to go to Montreal, that wouldn't happen. If I wanted to do it, I would do it.
Oh, I'll be there in a heartbeat.
That's right. So we'll do a Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto tour. Toronto.
Yeah. Toronto.
I've always wanted to do the sort of the triangle. Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto.
Yeah.
And because I'm an entrepreneur and I wake up in the morning with freedom, I can think like that because it's possible for me. If I was working in the city in a cubicle selling mobile phones, I wouldn't even bother thinking about it because it was so far out of my scope that it could never happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why, we haven't even talked about Twitter. We haven't even talked about why Twitter is powerful here. But the fact is, Twitter is just one of the raft of social media sites to get the message out once you've decided to do a Montreal tour.
Yeah.
An American tour with Andrew and you're just pushing the message out after the event. You've got to have the idea first, yeah. Absolutely.
And take it forth to in your case, and for a lot of us, for Andrew and Laura and Heather, we do use Twitter. We don't use it as well as you. We're working on that. For those of us that use Facebook or use Pinterest or use LinkedIn as their primary medium, that's because that's where their target market is. And as long as you're aware of where your target market is and you use that platform in the best way possible, then you're really going to help yourself out in business for sure.
Because you'll be able to tribe. You build, and that's a key phrase, isn't it? A tribe of people galvanized around you. People that dig me, dig me. People that I dig, I really dig. Like Michael Stelzner and Michael's the social media podcast. I listen to that every week religiously. Every Saturday it comes out, and I download it, and I ride my bike to the local beach, and I get a coffee, and I listen to his podcast, and that's something I fit into my lifestyle, and that's what people will do if you find the right format for them.
Exactly. It's like Leo Laporta. I love everything he does, and he does. I mean, he does it all. He's on TV. He does podcasts. He really has a handle on. He's really techie, and it's all about the information and the techie stuff that he absolutely loves, which is what makes it so interesting. We're just about out of time. This has absolutely flown by. One thing I want to mention to the viewers is on businessbannerplus.com. When you go to this video, you're going to see below the links that Keith mentioned, the books he talked about, and we'll have a couple of other links there, ways for you to get a hold of Keith. I thank you so much for being my guest. I'm so glad that finally you say you're comfortable with video. Yay! It took me a lot longer, folks. I want you to know it took almost a year for him to say he was comfortable and kind of like Google. Google Plus was a sticking point for Keith. We're not going to say what you used to say, but I want to thank you so much, Keith. It's
the pleasure is all mine, and I think you are the one that needs the thanks. You have this platform now. You've really mastered Google Plus. You've really mastered Google Hangouts, and you give us all a platform to come on. I've never done anything like this on video before. Everything I've done has always been a little bit hiding in the shadows, and you've really made me step up to the fore. I mean, that's something to be proud of. You're bringing us out. You're bringing us out of our shadows.
Well, thank you. The fact that you think I made you comfortable makes me so happy. This is what I love to do. And on that note, folks, we're going to say good morning, have a great day to Keith, and good night from me, because it's much later than usual podcasts or video is done from Business Banner Plus TV. Stay with us. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a surprise guest. Thanks very much, Keith.
We'll see you later.
We'll see you.